The following is a presentation of the Control Trends Podcasting Network.
Basic ideas.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to Control Talk. Now, your smart buildings video cast and podcast for the week ending August 4th, 2019. This is episode 226, where we talk about all things smart building and HVAC controls. And I am joined by your host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only preseason football playing, baseball watching man, Kenny Smyers, the control man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, man, welcome to the show. We got an exciting one coming up, buddy.
Well, we sure do, Eric. I tell you, this is one of the best shows we've had in a while because we have some fabulous guests and some interviews that are really going to bring our Control Trends community up to speed in a couple of different levels. We've got some physical stuff where we've got locations. We've got some exciting news where we have a grand opening somewhere in Ohio. And then we've got a champion of cybersecurity coming on later in the show. But how about that brawl? We'll talk about it a little bit later. I know we will, but that Cincinnati Pirate where they had, the whole teams converged on the infield for about 20 minutes. And it was probably the craziest episode I've seen, that they kept the networks kept the TVs running, and it was videoed, and now it's just tearing things up. They got 10-game suspension, 8-game suspension.
I did not see it. I suspect I can see it on YouTube, so I'll check that out.
Yes. But it was like $200 million of fighting going on. And if I was the owner, and the one guy had already been traded, Pugh was traded during the game.
Oh my God!
He's playing for Cincinnati, and he gets traded to the Indians. Now, normally the rules are you take the guy off the field as soon as the trade's done. I mean, Pirates have had 4 or 5 episodes where the guy literally got taken out of the game. He was playing second base, and he went to San Francisco. We had another guy who was in the 7th inning, who's due up to bat. He was taken out because the other team doesn't want their recently purchased resource getting hurt for the other team. So you had, Kim, these pitchers are making $10 million. You got outfielders making $8-9 million. One guy gets traded, and there's like they're fighting like it's a bar room brawl.
Oh my gosh!
And the guys are getting stamped. They're rolling over each other and getting crushed. And I'm thinking, well, protect those arms.
Right? Anybody get hurt really badly, or?
Fortunately not, but it was scary. And they need to, Major League Baseball needs to put some rules in there that if you throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball anywhere near somebody's head, you should be deterred from doing that kind of stuff. Because people have gotten hurt, and then the guy turns around and hits Starling Marte right in the hip with about an 85-mile-an-hour fastball, and it's just like you can't. It was just not expected. It's not appropriate for Major League professional baseball players to lose control of everything.
Yeah, and I think that the thing where it relates back to our business is, man, it's kind of like that in the smart buildings control business. It's sort of becoming like a big old brawl, and you stay professional, as we like to say, stay relevant, stay in control. And if you're going to be in control, as one of my teachers used to say, nothing's obvious to the uninformed. So you're at the right place to get informed, so you can stay out of one of those control. Smart building control draws. Melees or melees. But Kenny, listen, before we get our first guest teed up, because they're ready to go, it's going to be guest heavy this week. We're not going to talk much, but right. People have been asking about the Control Trends Award sponsorships, and those packages are going to go out. If you've been in the last couple of Control Trends Awards, if you've been lucky enough to be in, you know that it's great. We've had to turn people down because of space. We got an unbelievable venue, B.B. King's down in Orlando. It's going to be our best show yet. It's going to be a combination of the Control Trends Awards and the Super Bowl all rolled into one. The way we're going to do that, we're going to start it an hour early. We get done with the show, bring the big TVs out. It's going to be festive. There's going to be cheerleaders. It's going to be a festive type thing. But B.B. King's is not as big as some of the venues we've had in the past. It's going to be more intimate. So that basically means that the only way we know to make this fair is, first come, first serve. We've already had some people that have already asked, and they've already signed up. So the platinum sponsorships are going to go out first. So those should go out later this week. But encourage you. This is something you do not want to sit on. If you want to be in it, you need to register right away. And part of the reason you want to do that, Kenny, is because we got just a cadre, a bunch of people that have not been in the award show before that are wanting to participate. But in fairness to our loyal sponsors, you're going to get first right of refusal. So we'll give you about a week to respond. Let us know whether you're in or not. If you're not, then we're going to open up these other people that are lining up wanting to be in the show. So anything you want to say about that?
No, like you said, it'll go out probably this certainly by the end of the weekend. But the the limitations again are basically venue driven. We'd love to have 100,000 people there because
That's going to be
we
next
love
year's
it.
show. Yeah,
Yeah,
next year's show.
yeah. So what happens is we get put into like a fishbowl type thing. But
No,
no,
what happens is A, B, and B. They totally jump starts. We were supposed to get the Hard Rock Cafe again in Orlando.
yes,
And
that's true.
we would have been able to have, we'd have been at 10, 20,000 people. Wouldn't have been a problem. A, B, and B, you're not allowed to come to our show. Don't even bother nominating A, B, and B. You took our venue, and Kenny and I, man, if it was baseball, there'd be a brawl. So.
Well, Eric, you're the one that always says it. The nature abhors a vacuum, and when some door opens, some other door closes, and vice versa. So what happened was we were forced to find a venue. Now, for the combination Control Trends Awards and the Super Bowl, there is no better venue.
Right.
The Hard Rock Cafe would have been good, but would have been kind of
not for what we're doing.
But this thing here is going to be, everybody's going to have access. So it's you can have 350 seats can see the stage without obstruction. There's going to be TVs on 6 on the bottom floor, 1 or 2 on the top floor, and then 2 on the main stage. Once the Control Trends Awards are over, we're wheeling these 70-inch television monitors. So it's going to go from a very, very important industry event, and it's going to have the solid, the solemnness of a Control Trends Awards, full blown, and then transition immediately into the biggest tailgate Super Bowl party.
Hang on, I've got to correct you. Solemnness is not the right word. The grandeur, the spectacle of a Control Trends Awards, the reverence of a Control Trends Awards, then we'll transition to the best party in town, best Super Bowl party you've ever been to. And,
Right.
and people are already saying, man, I see people for a good time, call Ken and Eric, at least on that night, man.
Well, and then it's going to take on the full trappings of the football theme, and it fell in our laps, and we were grateful for it. But we're going to have a Super Bowl theme. We're going to have some a footballish environment. Obviously, we're going to transition well, so we won't let anybody get wild and hooting and hollering.
Yeah.
But you're going to see a lot of people excited about their football teams. Who knows going to be in the Super Bowl? We already heard some people from colleges that saying that their favorite football team is a college team, and so we're going to invite everybody to kind of
and we got some people we got some people from overseas saying that their favorite football team is a soccer team. So hey, it's okay. We're politically correct. Football, soccer, it's all the same to us. I mean,
well, you know what?
We don't judge.
You just threw in a skit. I got to write a note down on that one. That we're going to have in the middle of the football thing, as we get ready for the thing, we'll do something to do with foosball or soccer.
There you go, buddy.
There we go.
All right, my good friend. Listen, the other thing is the nomination ballots will be going out in the next week or so, so check your inbox. But, it's that time of year where the Control Trends Awards are going to start ramping up. And, Kenny, I have a very, very special announcement, and then we're going to get to our guest.
All righty.
Kenny and I promised a museum way back when. So the bad news is we don't have a museum. We have either the next best thing or some people think even a better thing. The ControlTrendsAwards.com site has officially launched. And it's a place where we're capturing every single year's awards with all the highlight videos, all the information. We'll continue to add to it, but it is up and going. So, hey, if you're Roger Rebenak or if you're Ed Merwin, if you are Warner Buck, if you are, what's the back net guy, Hans Kranz? You're going to be able to, your new home is the ControlTrendsAwards.com website. So that's just part of
perpetuity.
Perpetuity. Yeah. It's the perpetuity place. And so it's officially launched. I encourage you to check that out. We'll put a link in this week's post and we're going to keep adding to it. But you know what? It's where you're going to be immortalized. All right. If you're lucky enough to be part of it.
You're right, Eric. So we got a great show, and we're going to transition to it right now. We had 2 announcements basically that we wanted to review real quick, and that is the Save the Date Niagara Summit 2020 is April 19th to the 21st. It's going to be in Manchester Hyatt, San Diego, California, and keep coming back to Control Trends because as Tree Sullivan updates us that they're moving all ends of it, the sponsors, presenters, everything's being coordinated right now, just like our show. And then Automated Buildings, Ken St. Clair declared an education emergency in his August edition. Our industry is in shambles, and it's very difficult to find the necessary connected resources. You got to check that out. Ken St. Clair did another great job in his August edition.
Automated Building. All right, buddy. That's good stuff. Let's get to our guest. And speaking of Roger Rebenak, Kenny, I do believe we have him and a buddy on the line. So how about introducing them?
Love to. I mean, two dynamic individuals. One is an industry stalwart, Roger Rebenak. He's the CEO of Jackson Control. And we have Stephen Heckler. He's the Ohio market leader for Jackson Control. And we are live from their grand opening in Cincinnati, Ohio. And welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're pretty excited, aren't we, Stephen?
Yeah, we're very excited.
It's August 2nd. It's 82 degrees. It's sunny. It's the Cincinnati Reds are playing tonight after the big brawl with the Pittsburgh Pirates last week. Kenny, did you see that?
I sure did. I have that on my phone. That was one of the most prolonged fights I've ever seen where not much happened. But I'll tell you what, when those guys throwing baseballs, those are killer beads. 100 miles an hour thrown at people's heads. That's got to be stopped.
But how many times have you seen a pitcher charge the opposing dugout? They usually he's batter, right?
Listen, I'll tell you what. If I was on Pittsburgh's team, I'd have been ducking down in that thing. He was a giant, and that Pugh was a giant. I mean, holy moly.
Well, we're hearing all this talk about baseball in the major leagues and foul balls going up in the stands. And, there's always going to be two sides to everything. Much like our industry, there's a lot of tradition, Stephen, and there's a big change in smart building trends and all this talk about integration and intelligent buildings and the smart rooms and all this good stuff. But, just like in baseball, how many years have we had baseball with no nets around the fans? And, we're in the midst of changing the game. And now we're talking about, I heard the other day, they said after that Reds Pirates brawl, well, maybe we're going to have to make some serious penalties if pitchers start throwing at batters, And I'm like, stop changing the game, right?
Well, Roger, hang on a second, Roger. Talking about changing the game, buddy. Now, listen, you're changing the game up, man. You came from the manufacturing side. For our listeners who might not know, Raj was with Honeywell for the longest time, did a great job with Honeywell, introduced most of us to access and security control. He went on, he became the first PID award winner at the Control Trends Award. So Raj is, which is passion, integrity, dedication. Yep. Raj has gone on to Jackson Controls, and many are accusing you of changing the game.
The game. That's our theory. That's our theory today. So, I never thought I would ask him to change baseball and change the game. But as you go forward and, look at the guys today, probably, Ty Cobb probably wasn't throwing 95 miles an hour, So, we're Jackson Control based in Indianapolis, as you know, Eric, and we have an aggressive expansion plan. Stephen's been with us now, Stephen, a year almost? Or
about 8 months.
About 8 months, and Stephen is based here in Dayton, Ohio. Has been in the contracting world, been in the industry for several years. We're very fortunate to have Stephen in April opening up our Ohio market here based in Cincinnati.
Well, congratulations. Stephen, what were you doing before you started to work with the man, the myth, the legend, Roger Rebenak?
Well, I've been a car mechanic almost since I could crawl around in my dad's garage. So basically what I did was wrenching on cars. And then, in 2008, we had kind of an economic downturn. So I got into, I went back to school for engineering, and I went to Emerson for a little bit. And then I got into the controls world, and it got in my blood.
What would make you want to do something
like that? Which I think happens. I don't know what happens.
Well, it's good. That's one of the things we're trying to do is be attractive as somebody that's in that kind of a changing mode and looking for new opportunity. So that's great. That's great to hear. In fact, we'll have to go into that in a little bit more detail because as Roger and I talked offline, the greatest severity we have right now is talent and new young blood to come into the organization and pick it up so that we can all retire comfortably in the very near future. No, I'm just kidding.
But we all talk about that. What does the next generation of the control industry professional look like? We know software is going to be probably leading everything. We hear all the talk about cloud and, edge devices, and these kids are coming out. I mean, I saw on TV last week, the kid that won the championship gaming, won $4.5 million at, winning this ultimate game.
Fortnite.
Nova or something. Nova? Was it Nova?
Nova. Is that the name of it? Yeah.
That's great.
And, and we've had Jackson Control have also added some bright young talent in Riley Castile and in Brody Warren, and they're both, gamers, software guys, and I've watched them adapt to what we're doing. And I think back about how long it took me to get to a point where I could even understand the software side of it, and I knew the mechanical side, the architecture side, and most importantly, the business side of it, right? But these guys come in and they just kill it right out of the bat. You show them the workbench or you show them some sort of, analytic engine, and they just get fired up as if it was Xbox.
Yeah, they love it.
And so we're real excited about that. Doug Durnell joined us this week, a couple months ago from Siemens. So he's going to be one of our director of building control technology. So we're adding people, Eric. We're adding people, Kenny. We're opening up branches in Ohio. We'll be here in the next month or two doing this again live from downtown Chicago.
So using a baseball parlance, Roger Rebenak and the team are throwing some serious heat.
Yep. And we're going yard on you, Eric.
We're going yard.
So Raj, I want to talk more about, what you guys are looking for, what the new sort of HVAC smart building controls professional looks like. But before I get there, let's talk about, how distributors have changed. I know you've come in and done some very innovative things at Jackson Control. Maybe take our listeners through what a distributor was, because you've had the opportunity to call on distributors in the past, where you sort of see us now and where you see distributors need to be in the future to create value.
Yeah. So my take on it, Eric, is, I've been in the business about 35 years. I've been on the contracting side at the branch. I've started in operations years and years ago before the internet. It sounds so crazy. So then I was, obviously at the factory with Honeywell and Tritium for many years. I fell in love with the Niagara framework and that whole deal and the connectivity of these buildings. And it's really, I call it a revolution. And then now I'm at a distributor. So I've seen all three sides. And my vision of what a distributor used to be was, hey, it was the think tank. It was where you went when you couldn't figure something out, whether it was a pneumatic thermostat or whether it was a foot-mounted actuator for a damper. But boy, the distributors had the expertise. They had the guys and the parts on the shelf, right? But there was really no connectivity to it. It was just, old-fashioned relationships. And now everything's on your phone. So I think the distributor of tomorrow is not just going to be a box provider or a fulfillment distributor. In my mind, there's two types of distributors: fulfillment and value add. And I think probably, by no stretch of the imagination, there was nothing wrong with being a fulfillment distributor. Like, today that would be Amazon. They're a fulfillment distributor.
Absolutely.
Now, how did they add value? Aren't they the ones who came out with Amazon or Alexa? Is that Amazon?
Yeah.
So how did they add value? Now they're listening to this conversation.
They're listening right now.
So what we're going to do at Jackson Control is try to differentiate ourselves through value add services. So
well, to that point, Roger, I just happened to be on your website, and I see just everything's a fresh look. You can see there's a new pulse, there's a new passion that's running through Jackson, and I just because we had the history where you did serve as Eric said, you opened up our eyes to this real true enterprise integration. I mean, nobody really put it together where security access control, you could badge in and it was a backnet point on the network that turned on the lights and put you in occupied. So now we're seeing that dream come true. And so I would just wanted to talk about your path, how you followed technology and how you're living the dream kind of, because you predicted that one day security would move from a back seat or a back burner to the front seat of an enterprise, because it needs to be there. Right. And then I want to just bounce real quick about the technology, how you followed it and how you've introduced it into this totally integrated thing to include that new shot detection concept that you're implementing.
Active shooters. Yeah. I mean, it's something I wish we didn't have to talk about, but it's a need in the industry that we can fulfill. As we look at buildings more holistically, we really have to take the blinders off. I mean, again, changing the game. Do you think for any reason at all that in 2005, when I left the Honeywell branch as a full-time security guy, that I would be, I'd be working in building automation? No, the game changed for me. The game changed for Honeywell, for Siemens, for Johnson, for everyone's had to change.
No, hang on, Raj. I disagree. I couldn't disagree more. Okay.
Good.
No, Raj. The game didn't change. You changed the game, and I think that's a key. But I think that's a key distinction. You're not the only game changer. There's others that have, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at, what I want our community to hear loud and clear is, don't wait for the game to change. If you wait for the game to change, you're too late. You're too late. Change the game. And if you want to know how to change the game, look at people like Raj, look at the people like Scott Cochran. There are a bunch of people out there that are changing the game. So be active with it. So
that's a much better way of saying it, Eric, because you're right. You can sit back and let something happen, or you can go make it happen, right?
Yeah. Raj, real quick, you bring up something that you brought to the industry that I think we've talked about it before on Control Trends, but it bears repeating. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tell people about Active Shooter, what that is. And I think once you tell them what that is and how it works, they'll understand why it's critical and why it's important.
Right. So Homeland Security, and we all have had to live through this nightmare of active shooters in our communities. It was something that, I don't think anyone really anticipated, but now it's something that we have to address. So, building owners, managers, engineers, and even the law enforcement community are constantly looking for something to do to, stop this. So there's technology out there now that the military has had for 35 years, been used in Afghanistan, been in military, for years. And in the Afghanistan mountains, they could put this technology out on a MV Hummer and could tell exactly where the shots were being fired from. So what they've done is brought it to the commercial space. And there's several manufacturers out there, but they're basically just, 4x4 gang box sensors that are PoE. They're power over the Ethernet, and different ones. The one what we're standardizing on will pick up muzzle flash, and we'll pick up the audio sound of anything from a 22 caliber up, on up to a bazooka, basically. But Homeland Security has endorsed this. The FBI has endorsed it. Most law enforcement's endorsement. But you got to think about what is the problem that we're trying to solve. And the biggest problem that first responders have is, where is this guy? Right? Where is this guy when this happens? Mm-hmm. It's not about minutes, it's about seconds, right? So the technology was invented and taken out to the market, and it's been extremely successful without false alarms. And basically, when first responders arrive on the scene, or maybe they're already on the scene, could be the principal of the school, right? Mm-hmm. They want to know where that last shot was fired and where is that guy, so they can eliminate that threat.
Right.
And also give people a good, like you always say, a route of escape, or right. The three things,
Exactly. Do I lock down or do I run? Right.
Yeah. Well, and here, Raj, here's the piece that I really want to make sure we connect this dot, because it's obvious to us. It might not be obvious to a listener. All this can be integrated through your Jace, right? So Absolutely. Our master systems Absolutely. Integrators now can bring this to the market. Talk about a way to change the game. Take the game out there, because this is a problem that is not a problem that's going to be something that's going to be a budgetary problem. Because if this technology exists and you don't implement it, and heaven forbid you have an incident and it comes out that you knew about this,
right?
Lawyers are going to have a field day with you. And you're paying more to get it, but the value, is so much more.
And much like we did with access control, video, and building automation, owners don't want another system. What they want is an easier way to touch and interact with their building. They're looking for an interactive solution, mm-hmm. so that in the integration doesn't always mean, because I have my active shooter tied to my VAVs, it doesn't mean the same people can interact with each one. It's all user authenticated. So we really feel like bringing this into a Niagara framework, we have the best first response, notification appliance out there. So we're building an operational technology infrastructure is what we're doing in a building now. We're going in and saying, there's so many smart devices in the building. Let's get them off your network. Let's get them off, let's get the clocks, the intrusion, the video, the access, the lighting, and now it can even be, active shooter sensors. So let's get all that on one network, on one subnet, and how can we make that easier for you? How can that user experience be more, delightful and more interactive? And that's really what we're doing. I mean, it came to us. We were asked to find a solution for a large client of ours, and we did. And from there, it's really taken off. We've had a lot of interest in it, Eric.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. Well, Roger, again, the concepts that you've always espoused was the integration of Niagara and making a building smart, and then how the technology is now there. And we always talk about the headwinds. Why don't people, like Eric said, even the money's probably there if it's budgeted properly. Mm-hmm. It's changing behaviors, and it's revealing the technology in a modular, scalable way that doesn't intimidate end users and it doesn't intimidate contracts. So I noticed that you've been emphasizing certain things, but really it's about filtering all the technology and making the applicable technology available to the right people. So you got different messaging going on. You need support, you need training, and then you need to help these people create the business cases. Why why this is going to make money for you in the long run, why it's going to keep you at 100% occupancy versus 50% and all those things. So how does Jackson Control put that messaging together?
Yeah, good question. So, Stephen, in the beginning years ago, 10 years ago when we met, we did a large integrated Niagara security project, and Stephen got it on day one, right?
Yep.
And what was some of those owners, we've had some large national account clients that come to us in a multi-site application, and they get it. They go, well, can you just tie all this stuff together? Can you tie it all together for me? And I really think we're the glue in the solution, right? So the messaging that we're putting out there is that you can buy one of everything, or you can have everything on one, right? And really see that day in and day out where that user experience and that cost of scale goes down when you standardize. So my big message is by many of my colleagues in the community is we all need to start helping buyers make better buying decisions. And that comes through education, standardization, and an interactive solution. And then they can budget these, if you will, these bolt-on additions to the platform as their budgets become available. Do we go in every day and someone says, yeah, do my lighting, do my temperature controls, do my access to it? No, but what happens is they go down this path and they end up on a clover leaf, right? And what we're trying to do is keep them on the freeway, right? Mm-hmm. So our messaging, it really begins with a standard. What would be an open standard to you, and what does open look like? And then what is your highest priority today, and what's that look like 3 years from now? Today, we may say, you know what, we've got a budget right now for access control. Yeah. We've been wanting to do this temperature control but we just haven't, it's every year it's something different. So we just reshape that obstacle and get them thinking more about standards and about what's the first step and then what's the migration path. Right.
Yeah, and I think the really cool thing, and Raj and I've talked about this before, because if you're one of our listeners out there, if you're an integrator, if you're an owner or a user, even if you're a consulting engineer, and you go, this active shooter thing sounds really, really good. Here's great news. All of us know Raj in the industry. You can reach out to your local distributor and say, hey, I'm interested in it. I heard Raj and Stephen on ControlTalk now. Raj will work with your local distributor. So, you can still have that, and Raj will help support us, support you.
I want to add to that a little bit, because there's some messaging out there. And I've traveled the United States for the Niagara community and Honeywell and Tritium and V.Cast now for, about 12, 14 years. When I lay the gauntlet down and go to the beach and decide that I'm done, I don't know when that'll be.
It's not going to happen.
I'm going to look back and the most valued memories I'm going to have are the people that I met, like you guys. And I really cannot tell everyone, how blessed I am to have met everyone. So it's to build on that, there's this thought out there that Jackson Control is trying to go into different communities and take over. I want to set the record straight. That is not what we want to do. I felt like while I was, the evangelist of the Niagara Enterprise Security, calling on distributors around the country, that we had a half-baked deal. And what I meant by that is I could come into Stromquist, I could come into Smyers, and we could design the system like no other. We could have a better value prop. We had all the named brands to do it. Then I left town and you had to go piecemeal this thing. You had to go to some security distributor, or you had to find some intercom, or you had to look for a parking gate. And that really made it clunky for our integrators and our distributors who weren't really from that arena to, have an end solution. Mm-hmm. I want to be real clear about this. Jackson Control wants to work with all the Niagara distributors around the country, and we want to go back and finish baking that cake. So in other words, you know what I mean? If you are listening to this podcast now and you are an integrator, call your local distributor. I can guarantee you they all know me. Most of them love me. A few don't.
but none of us can ignore him.
You might ask your distributor. My big question is, do you love him or do you don't? Both. And if you don't, let's help them love me. Right.
Right. Let's all love Raj. Well, listen, Stephen, I want to shift back to you real quick.
Sure.
Big news today. You opened the Cincinnati location. What can customers in the Cincinnati area expect from you and your team there in Cincinnati?
Well, they can really, I mean, kind of what Roger is saying, and the word we haven't really said is collaboration. The whole space that we set up isn't like a traditional distributor where you just walk in and you get your boxes and you walk back out. You know, we have special tables where people can sit down and talk about controls and talk about solutions and talk about vision. We got the offices, the rooms behind me. Those are sort of like public rooms where a programmer who's maybe just needing to hide.
Don't get any ideas.
Or to come up with a decision. They can come sit in these rooms.
Where's my guys? They're Jackson again. Oh, dang it.
You think of this as the Apple Store of the smart buildings. Look at show them the showroom out there.
So I don't know if you can see
our
nice
tables, see our shelves, show them our 2 recliners over there.
There's 2 chairs over
our
there.
Nice recliners over there that you can sit in and relax.
Nice.
We have literally coffee shop tables, and you can't get the camera to the rest of it, but it's all set up to
Steven, was that an ATM machine over there?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We will accept cash.
That's what we call Greg Erickson.
Nice.
Very nice. Very impressive. Very pretty.
Tray. Look at our cable tray.
We got a cable tray.
So what we also wanted to do was make this very industrial, very much like what we're out there in the world seeing today. That cable tray, there's a reason and a message behind that. That's the operational technology infrastructure pipeline. So in the building now, everything's going IP. It's all going to be IP. It's going to be wireless. It's going to, the MSTP is going to slowly fade. The hardwire and copper is going to slowly fade.
For sure.
So this cable tray represents our smart building technology pipeline, right, Steve?
IP controllers will take it. Was that Andy Held I saw in the background there?
It was Andy Held.
Hey.
Andy, come in here and say hi.
Come in here.
Get in here and say hi. Andy Held.
Here's a legend. Andy's a bigger legend than Roger Rebanek, man.
I don't know. Hey, Andy, how you doing?
46 years, Jackson Control, president of Jackson Control, right here, buddy.
Andy, nice to see you, buddy. How are things going? How's life under Roger?
It's fun. We have a blast.
He's a fun guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is a fun guy for sure.
Well,
congratulations on the new location, man.
Yeah, it's been turned out great. I really like the way it turned out. You should have seen it when we first found it.
It was a wreck.
Well, Andy, while you're there and Raj is there and Steven's there, we want to let you guys be the first to know. As you guys know, Jackson's always been a great sponsor of the Control Trends Awards. We've got a new category this year, and we want to see if you guys are interested in letting the Control Trends community know that you want to participate in. It's kind of a competitive thing here. And let me start by saying Kenny and I are both disqualifying our companies from this. I'd like to say it's because we'd win, but it's because it would create all kinds of negative dispersion. So the newest category in the Control Trends Awards this year is going to be the Distributor of the Year.
Ooh.
And wondering if you guys would like to invite our Control Trends community to nominate you guys.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen. In the Control
Here we go.
Here comes the elevator pitch.
I would like to take this sincere opportunity to ask you for your vote for Control Trends 2019 Distributor of the Year.
Hey, Andy, Andy, when Roger started that, I thought he was going to start off like Nixon and go, but I'm not a crook.
No, there we go.
Good job, guys. Well, that's great, guys. Well, listen, so proud of you guys. Raj, you're just doing a fantastic job. Excited about the new location, and you got another one coming up in Chicago pretty soon.
Wait,
right?
Eric, one more thing before we lose Andy. Maybe you can introduce April there, guys.
No, where's Tommy? Let's get April and Tommy in here. And while we're talking about that, I know I've spoken to you guys a couple times, but we have another office on the campus of Notre Dame in the Idea Technology Center. So it's not your traditional looking distributor either. It's really going to be where we clone, develop, and bring the next generation of young, bright engineering software minds out of Notre Dame and other colleges. Cool. And we're going to bring them in, get them into this industry, show them how much fun it is and how much fun we have. And I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce April Marshall.
Hello.
Hi, April.
Hi, April.
Say hi to the Control Trends community.
Control Trends World.
Hello, Control Trends World.
Like the way you did that. Yep.
You
nice.
Need something from Jackson Control in Ohio. Don't forget April.
Yeah.
Or May, or June, or July, or August, right? You guys sell all year round.
Who else we got back there, Roger? Who else we have?
Tommy Heitzenberger. He's our Michiana. Get in here, Tommy.
Hi, Tommy.
Our office in Notre Dame, what we call our Michiana region. So tell me a little bit of Michigan and all of northern Indiana, up there in an area that a lot of people don't have a lot of background on, but it's a hidden gem up there, actually, right?
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about what you're doing up on our campus of Notre Dame.
Sure. So what we've done is we've opened up an office, and we're trying to go for more of that Apple style type setting where you walk in, we've got demos, you can come in, play with it. It's an opportunity to teach people with what our products are.
Very cool.
It's a great campus. It's a great opportunity to bring people in and kind of show off the South Bend area.
Stay in here, everyone. The screen is keep looking good.
Well, listen, we just got, one of our big Stromquist big customer.
Eric, look at you and look at me. And now look at these three.
Yeah.
What do you know?
I think you and I need to head on out to the pasture. But we did get a text from one of our customers at UGA. They're big customers of Stromquist, and they just want to let you know that they're looking forward to the September match with Notre Dame. And that you might want to make sure that the ice makers are working, because there are probably going to be some bumps and bruises up there.
So if you're a Fighting Irish fan and you want to vote for us as Distributor of the Year, we have tickets on the 50-yard line.
Well, let me segue into our 2019 Control Trends Awards are down in Orlando, February 2nd, Roger. And this year is ultra special because we're going to have a combo. We're going to have the Control Trends Awards starting at 5:30 and transition to the biggest Super Bowl tailgate party in Orlando. So you'll be able to bring that Notre Dame game with you.
Yes, sir. We're making our plans now. We'll be there. We'll be another platinum sponsor for Control Trends. You can count on.
Oh, man. There you go, Roger. Well, thanks so much. We appreciate you guys. Listen, congratulations. I know there's a website that people can go to get all your locations.
Control.com.
JacksonControl.com. There you go. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's been Roger Rebenak and team on Control Trends. Team, thanks for taking some time to talk to our community.
Thanks, guys.
Very much.
Well, Kenny, I tell you what, Roger Rebenak, we used to dub him the most exciting man in the controls industry. Now he's gotten all grown up and serious. He doesn't like to be called that anymore. But I got to tell you, I still think he is the most exciting man in the controls industry. So congratulations to Raj. And again, Distributor of the Year is a new category we have. And if you think about at the Control Trends Awards, we've got everything from the manufacturers to the products to the people to the Systems Integrator of the Year to the Engineer of the Year. And now we're bringing what we think is the key piece that holds it all together, the Distributor of the Year. So when the nomination ballots come out, be sure to nominate your favorite distributor. And Kenny and I, Stromquist and Company and DMS Controls, we are not in the competition. Okay. And it's not because we couldn't compete. As a matter of fact, we could compete, we could kick ass, but we would probably win and people would go, that's not fair. So we are graciously stepping back to make room for all the other distributors. So there we go.
You're right. And then Roger Rebenak has a passion. It's one of a kind. So it's always good to see. It's always good to talk with Roger because I tell you, come away, with the knowledge too. Roger has invested his entire life, it seems, in the integrated solution, and to see it finally come blossom for him in a very professional, personal yet professional way is good to see.
I'm glad he's on our side of the tent right now. And now let's switch gears a little bit because, one of the things we're seeing in our big baseball brawl and smart building controls is that, you got a lot of new players that are coming onto the field. And if you follow Control Trends, we try to introduce you to the ones we think are relevant. Kenny and I met our next guest at Realcomm IBCon. We're blown away with his approach to a major problem we're all having, which is cybersecurity. So, Kenny, how about introducing our next guest?
I'd love to. It's Thad Eidman, Chief Operations Officer for Accreto. Chad is going to tell us about some really new, exciting developments in cybersecurity, the top trend of 2019. Welcome to the show, Thad.
Welcome, Thad.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Great to be here.
Now, first question we have to ask is, did you ever see the TV show Starsky and Hutch back in the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
The actor that played, and he's been on some movies, and I forget his name, Kenny, but are you any relation to that actor that he was like in, you know who I'm talking about, right?
It was Don Johnson, wasn't it?
Well, I like the way you roll.
Well, Don Johnson's.
I'll take the Don Johnson. That's not exactly who I was thinking about.
Well, that's a good one too. Me too. I'll take that one too.
Yeah, but
Melanie Griffith. Yeah.
Well, I got to pick the handsome one, don't I?
I like the way you think, man. I like the way you think. But
Well, remember that TV show was quite a while ago, right? So
well, it was, but he was also in the one with Kevin Spacey, where Kevin Spacey was the politician. He's been in a bunch of things, but he usually plays a bad guy. But for our Control Trends community, if you can name the actor I'm thinking of in comments, you'll get a really swell prize. Okay, so and then we'll find out, Thad, who the community thinks you're most like. So there you go. But listen, Chad, we're so excited to have you on. We met you for the first time at Realcomm IBCon. A gentleman that I have a lot of respect for, Leroy Walden, called me over and says, you have got to see this guy's product. He has got something that's going to change the way we do cybersecurity, and not only just mobile and distributed control. Talk about your company and your product and sort of how you guys are rolling with that.
Yeah. So, it was a pleasure to meet you at IBCon as well, and really appreciate how you guys bring new information and new products to the community. I think it's really, really valuable for all of us. So thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about cybersecurity. I thought it was interesting, and I'm sure you were around the same ball I was around when the day before IBCon started. About 350 of the 2,500 attendees showed up a day early to talk about cybersecurity. And so, I think we have to take a step back and ask ourselves, what's wrong with this picture, right? Because we've had for years, right, a number of people in the market serving cybersecurity, whether it's Cisco, IBM, Symantec, Palo Alto, you can go down the list. And these are all major corporations. So why is cybersecurity still a problem? And I think we have to start there with the fundamental question. And from our perspective, the answer to that question is that there's been a dramatic and fundamental change in the world around us in terms of the kinds of things we have to secure. So what we see, and it's primarily driven by the Internet of Things, is that the world is going mobile and distributed. And what that means is that everything's connecting to everything. And not only are we already having a cybersecurity problem, but when you think about the advent of 5G, which is going to drive even more mobile and distributed Internet of Things devices, the security challenge is going to become astronomical, because there's about 1 billion enterprise assets in the world today. So servers, laptops, desktops, et cetera. We've had trouble even securing them. Now you add, 50 to 75 billion Internet of Things devices on top of that, and it's just going to become untenable. So we really have focused on coming at this entirely new security challenge in a very different way, because fundamentally, when you get to the base of it, you find out that traditional network security and traditional on-device security simply don't effectively work in this environment. In fact, Gartner, the leading analyst firm, recently gave a presentation. They had two primary comments. One is the security products and practices you're using today aren't going to work for Internet of Things. And if you try to solve it with the sort of traditional approaches warmed over, they called it putting a fresh coat of paint on old products, you're going to fail. So an entirely new approach is required.
Well, talk about the new approach. That I was on your website and got a chance to do some pre-interview reading, and I was very impressed because it's kind of a new concept. In fact, you introduced cybersecurity as an ecosystem, and it sounds as complicated as can be, but how does the ecosystem platform, how is that, tell us about the ease of use, tell us about the user experience or the typical big customer and medium customer, little customer, because this is scalable, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've built this for billions of devices. So fundamentally what we've done is we said, okay, network security is not going to work because the person that owns the IoT may or may not have any control over that network. So, and the second thing is that this whole concept of network segmentation creates such a level of overhead that large companies simply cannot manage it. And the second thing is, okay, on-device security is not going to work. So what the hell are we going to do, right? So we've created this new approach, which we call ecosystem security. And when we stepped back, we said, we've got to make security work in the way that companies think and operate. And how companies think and operate are, and our term is ecosystem. People might call it a business process, a program, or whatever. But it's a collection of technologies that need to work together to accomplish a business task, right? So if we think about building security, for example, building security has a number of elements. There's devices, there's security cameras, safety equipment, door access controllers, et cetera. There's a set of applications that interact and run these devices. And there's a set of users that interact with these applications and devices. So to us, this is what we call an ecosystem. It's a collection of devices, users, and applications that need to work together to accomplish a business function. So basically the way our security works is the partner or the customer goes on our website. And the partners obviously have a different level of access than customers. They create an ecosystem by registering these devices, users, and applications together. And once they're registered, they're segregated in an isolated network container from everything else. So nothing can get to these devices, users, or applications that's not a part of this segregated. So basically, we're privatizing what is today a huge publicly accessible a group of assets.
That is pretty awesome. And again, you talk about the Accredo as being the first security as a utility company. And I thought that was an amazing business proposition, and how you're able to give a potential user a trial basis that can really bring the vision forward and get them a very concrete idea of what they need and what they need to spend and budget. And tell us a little about the little differences between humidity sensor versus IoT camera.
Yeah, so when you look at the concept of a smart building, and obviously I'm going to talk in broad oversimplified terms, right? But we tend to think of it that there are sort of three groups of activities. There's management of the building itself. There are tenant services, and of course, there's a lot of new tenant services being driven by new services being provided by companies like WeWork, et cetera, and supply chains. So all the different companies that interact to support and supply things to that physical building. And what we have found in our research, which we did starting a couple of years ago when we began development of the platform, is that customers told us, look, our Internet of Things devices, we absolutely have to protect them because for two key reasons. One is they're a gateway to our primary network in many cases. And secondly, because many of them are battery operated. So if a hacker sits there and pings that device over and over again, what happens is the 20-year life now goes to 4 years and you've got to go replace it. So we've got to prevent sort of these operational issues as well. So when we looked at that, one of the things the customer said is, look, we're not going to buy IoT security based on a per device or a per network model. It simply financially doesn't scale. So we've come at this and said, this industry is used to buying things on a usage basis. You buy electricity on usage, you buy water on usage, you buy gas on usage, you pay sewer on usage. Everything's based on a usage basis. Why not offer security on a usage basis? So that's exactly what we do. When you connect your devices into an ecosystem, right, you generate a cost to protect those devices based on what we call cloud units. And basically a good measure of a cloud unit is bandwidth, right? Everybody knows how much bandwidth they use. And so you pay based on usage. If your usage declines, you pay less. The second thing that's really interesting is that not only is it paid for as a utility, but there's no minimum contract. And what we found is that this opened up a whole series of use cases in the building market. For example, if I am fitting out the 12th floor for a new tenant, during that 6-month fit out, for example, I've got, my architects, my contractors, my electricians, my whatever, who all need building access, they need access to plans. So I can form an ecosystem of those participants. And basically for that period of time, I can provide protection, but I don't have to sign up for a year. I don't have to sign up for 3 years. Whatever I use during that period is what I pay for. So it's an entirely new concept that is, pay for what you use. Your ecosystems can grow and shrink, and you're going to pay for what you use. And then we've eliminated the time element. So there's no annual license that you have to buy.
Wow. Well, I tell you, the marketplace has got to love that, Chad, is what I'm thinking. But let's talk a little bit more. As a company, you mentioned you're very channel focused. What specifically is your appeal to potential channel partners?
Well, I think in security, specifically, it's been difficult for a number of the channel partners that participate in this industry. So the master integrators, if you look at the profiles, you have a lot of companies that are in the $3 to $10 million revenue range. And it's very difficult for them to have cybersecurity experts on staff, right? So how do they actually evaluate what products they want to offer their customers? How do they actually get their staff trained so that they can effectively support these products? And so what we basically done is we've said, look, we're coming at this from an entirely new direction. So the first thing that we enable our partners to do is provide thought leadership. When they walk into their customer and talk about an entirely new way to secure their assets, that is the most advanced data center grade security that can cover for the first time these mobile and distributed assets, and can do so in a simplistic usage-based fashion. There is nothing else in the market like this. So they're going to walk in the door with thought leadership. And thought leadership in security is very important, but it's also very hard to achieve for these mid-market integrators. So we enable them to achieve that as an objective. And I think that's really important for the industry. We want to support these partners in their ability to create thought leadership. I think the second thing is that we have simplified our product so we do not require months and months of training. And this releases the system integrator to engage with us because they know that we're not going to suck up a tremendous amount of their resource on the pathway to generating their first revenue, right? And I think that's really, really important. And lastly, of course, is we expect to deliver a very attractive recurring revenue, profitable relationship with our partners.
Well, it's a grand slam then, because for one reason, the thought leadership comment is very appropriate, and Eric and I find ourselves in many ways kind of responsible because people are looking for that portal, that pivot point to get information and get in and get out, and we always run to NIST and IST, because there's not many private entities that really get it and put it together as a product, let alone be able to, like you said, the simplified process, the utility concept is very, very interesting because you pay for what you use, so you can isolate those costs and add them to what you're doing. And if things get too, if you don't have the budget or whatever, you can make decisions. So the visibility is very important. But there was something that happened at IBCon that that created a lot of excitement about the Microsoft folks showing up in a big way. And one of their specific offerings is a security platform as part of Sphere. How does Accredo's product fit in with the Microsoft platform?
That's a great question. We got that a lot. But before I answer that, let me go back to something you just said, because I think it's important, which is when a system integrator walks in with our product to a customer, we're not asking that customer to rip and replace the security they have. We're a seamless overlay, right? So, and I think that's an important point that puts the customer at ease. So we're adding a capability without requiring the customer to rip and replace something that they already have. They can do that over time as they become familiar with our platform. So on to Microsoft. We always enjoy. I've been in the technology business a long time, and everybody always looking for the silver bullet. And there was a number of conversations at the cybersecurity briefing the day before IBCon where I heard a number of people say, finally, Microsoft is on the scene. They've got a security methodology. Everything's going to be okay. So, and it's a natural reaction, right? The big boys have come into town, whether it's Microsoft or Intel or whatever, and they're gonna take this on for us. So we actually had a great meeting at IBCon with Microsoft. The gentleman that heads the program, who was there on site, the Sphere program for them. And really, if you dive into Sphere, what you find is that they are really promoting and supporting a methodology for device hardening. So the device itself, right? There's a 7-layer model that they are putting forward and really supporting with various technology initiatives. The interesting thing is that when we did a demo of our solution for Microsoft, what we discovered in that process of going through that demo is that we are basically 100% compatible with them. They're working on hardening the device. That's not something that we're focused on. We're focused on external threats, right? Making sure that external threats don't get to that device, or if that individual device is hacked, that threat does not go to other members of that network. So it's in essence a perfect fit. And we'll expect to be talking about that with Microsoft over the next few months. But yeah, we were excited that our fit is so complementary with them.
Nice.
Very, very cool. Kenny, I think you got another question for Thad, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, the thing I say to elaborate on some of the we talked about behavioral changes, how people in these mid-level organizations and businesses that don't have the ability to throw a whole lot of money into cybersecurity, they need a solution. And then I think that part of that too, so that's the behavioral change, but I don't think people really understand the nature of the beast. So like you mentioned network segmentation, and then you mentioned device, I got a kick out of that, the on-device security, because a lot of manufacturers now believe that's the answer. They're encrypting and decrypting across the network from device to device or whatever. Tell us what the shortfalls are those. I mean, where is that? Like it's not the total message, or it's not the total solution.
Right. Well, if you break down security and you look at what's been traditionally called a full stack security model, there are a whole series of functions that have to be performed. So when you're talking about, identity and encryption, really what you're talking about is identity and privacy, right? But you're not talking about security, right? So identity and privacy are two of the things that we do, but they are only two of the many steps that we do to provide full stack security, right? Because you have to look at things like access control, threat management, data loss prevention, especially when you talk about machines communicating to machines. Things like data loss prevention are going to be very important. Behavioral analytics based on how that machine, how that device, how that user or application is acting today versus how it's acted in the past. So when you talk about identity and encryption, which we have as both of those as part of our platform, those are only two of the many things that have to be done for a full security review. The other thing you touched on, which I think is quite interesting. We had some chuckles on this at IBCon. We met with one of the major security vendors, and there were only a couple there. So, and we asked them about their offering, and they said, well, we have created this smart building campus, and we've done all these things, and one of the main things we've done is we've gotten the information technology people, the IT people, to really connect with the operating technology people, the OT people. So we've really got this relationship going. And there were a number of conversations and discussions and even some presentations at IBCon about, how we've got to get IT and OT working together. Honestly, we think that is the biggest bunch of nonsense in the history of mankind. Because the fact of the matter is that if you look at the objectives of IT and OT, they are fundamentally different. They really don't have a need to talk to each other, which is historically why they haven't, right? OT is interested in driving operations, efficiency, customer service, et cetera. And IT is risk avoidance and all that. And so this concept of getting these two groups of kumbaya together is absolutely ridiculous. People in security will tell you that any security that's dependent on people to execute a process, you're already screwed before you even start. So what we've done is we've come at it in a different way that says, oh yeah, we're going to solve the problem. We're going to solve the problem of IT and OT communications by eliminating the need for them to communicate, right?
Nice.
We're going to let them be the way they are. So what we've done is, if you look at our platform, IT, and it goes back to this concept of an ecosystem, right? IT can go in and set parameters by which they want the company as a whole to be secured for these kinds of activities. And then the operating technology professionals can go create their own ecosystems whenever they want, how many ever they want, and they will always be compliant with the IT objectives, right? And so basically, the approach now is the operating technology guy says, oh, I got to do an IoT program. I got to roll out this building. I got to roll out this tenant service. I got to roll out whatever. I don't have time to wait on IT to approve everything. Oh, guess what? You don't need IT to approve everything. Go in, create your Credo ecosystem. It's already pre-approved. You can do it right now. It'll take you 15 minutes. All right.
Well, Todd, trust me, this is very interesting and it's groundbreaking for me, because that has been the thrust, is the integration of IT and OT, and having this. There were like two primary choices. You had the enterprise network, and you bring everything on all the IP devices, because we're seeing a radical increase in products going to IP. Obviously, MSTP and all the two-wire things are starting to be, they're losing ground to IP-based controllers. And all the majors have put one out there. EasyIO began it way back when, and Honeywell just introduced the Cypher lines. Johnson had them. Siemens has them.
Right.
So the question then became for us in the master systems integrators and the integrators that we are familiar with, they had to make a choice if they were going to create a BAS network and do exactly what you said, dislocate the conversation and make everything that was BAS on that network, and then take care of that, secure that, and let IoT do their own thing on the enterprise network. And then we had some, like people like Ford and GM talking about they want to supervise anything on any network in their facilities. So they wanted to, you had to abide by their standards. So, but I think what you said is that, that is kind of like maybe the false step in our approach towards the ecosystem style of cybersecurity, where this shouldn't be a conversation, because each one should be its own, what would you call it? Its own set of concerns that don't necessarily involve the other one.
Right. I think there's two, probably more than two, but at least a couple of issues you pointed out there. One is that today, when a company starts to look at this challenge, what they see is they have all of these different kinds of devices and maybe guest networks and other stuff all commingled together on various networks, right? And so the first thing they look at is, crap, what am I going to do? I've got all this stuff on the same network, and I just read that my security cameras are subject to XYZ breach and, all this stuff. What we're saying to them is, look, you're at point A right now where everything is all on these various networks. The wrong decision for you, is to start a huge network segmentation project. Because A, it's going to require a tremendous amount of expense. It's going to require resources you don't have. And even when you finish, you're not going to be finished, because while you're doing it, other things are going to be added in, right? So that's the wrong approach. The right approach is to say, we need to leave these things on the networks they're on. And we need to understand that these things need to be accessed from outside of our networks by third parties, right? Otis Elevator is going to be accessing the IoT devices in those elevators to check them on a regular basis, right? And so many companies are now using external providers to monitor security after hours. So we have to come to the realization that this isn't about a building. That's this physical thing, and nothing gets in or out. Everything is connected, right? So we have to be able to say, we have to protect any kind of device residing on the network that it sits on today, whether that is a controlled network inside our building with a traditional firewall, et cetera, or whether that's a device that is a mobile device being used by a user at the neighborhood Starbucks to talk to our building control application in Amazon, totally outside our visibility and control, right? So we have to be able to secure both of these kinds of things together. And the only thing that we have seen that can do it effectively is our ecosystem model. You can't do it with network security, and you can't do it with on-device security. So, okay, somebody show me another alternative other than what we have. We haven't seen it yet.
Nice. Well, Thad, walk our community too, if they want to engage your services, sort of walk them through the process. Obviously, give them a website or a point of contact, and then sort of tell them what to expect next.
So we are, as you know, we're newly launching, right? We've been developing this platform for 30 months. So when you start talking about connecting anything to anywhere, it's a big job. But our technical team delivered the FIFA World Cup games for ESPN. So we're very, very attuned with those kind of things. Where we are with our partners is we are engaging with partners. What the partner can expect from us is the opportunity, first of all, to create thought leadership. So the first thing that we do with our partners is not dive in and say, oh, look at this feature, look at this function, look at this cost structure, look at this. Our first discussion with a partner is, are you a group that's focused on thought leadership? Because if you're not, you're probably not an appropriate partner for us. We really want people who want to be innovative and thought leaders. So the first thing that we do is we enable that partner to be a thought leader. And that requires some time, right? Typically myself, our CTO, et cetera, spend time with the head of biz dev for that partner, sometimes the COO, and we really walk them through, what is the problem we're solving? Why is that an important problem? How do we solve it differently? What's the value we can bring to that customer? Because until a partner understands that, it doesn't make any sense to go through anything else, right? The second thing that we do is we enable the partner to sell the product, right? So, and our partner should know that a customer can buy the product on our website or they can buy it through a partner. It's the exact same price. So we will always push customers to the partner first. Why? Because customers need partners to help them out with things like device selection, device implementation, device management, device support, device monitoring. This is security. This is but one piece of an integrated solution, right? So we will always push customers to partners. And we believe that partners that have the expertise in the smart building market are absolutely our best way to get to these customers. They have the trusted relationships. We are not going to go, we do not have an independent sales force that's going to call on smart building owners and managers, right? We're really focused on partners. So we have thought leadership, we have the product, and then we have technical support. So we're going to teach that partner how to implement one of our ecosystems, and it's very, very simple. And we have certification programs at two levels. One is what we call a strategist. So this would be for the business development or salesperson, so they understand what's the strategy behind what we're doing. And then we have certification at the technical level. And it's a very, very quick process for someone who is network knowledgeable. They don't have to be a security expert. They just need to be network knowledgeable.
Very cool. And the best website for them to come to you at?
Accredo.io, and there's a contact form, and they can fill that out, and we'll get right on it.
And just say Ken and Eric sent you, and you'll get great service there. Listen, before Kenny asks the last question, Thad, we have gotten some responses back about the actor you most look like. Angie Jarvis and several other women say Roger Moore. And then we got a couple of Bill Murrays, but the correct answer is, and Scott Cochran from Cochran Supply got this right, is Gerald McRaney. That's the guy we were going for. So Gerald McRaney was the right answer, although the women think you look a lot like Roger Moore. So I'd play that one up.
Hey, what can I say? It's been a great day already.
No, just go Bond. Thad Bond.
Well, Thad, I just wanted to, hopefully we can fit this back in there, but I even though you've only been developing this technology for 30 months, your breadth of experience is extraordinary. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but your CEO or founder this is his third company doing exactly this. So there's probably, just tell us a little bit about that so we can get a better understanding of how deep this thought process has gone or is.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Before we founded Accredo, I was actually the president of a managed service provider. And the biggest challenge that we had a number of hospitality clients. The biggest challenge we had was that these hospitality clients had a very significant and fast-growing fleet of IoT devices. So if you think about a typical hospitality location, you walk in, there's video monitors on the wall that are all internet connected, door access controllers, thermostats, et cetera, et cetera. And so we were looking for a solution for Internet of Things security, and I couldn't find one. About the time Babak passed, our CEO and CTO, who I've known for a number of years, called me and said, "Hey, Thad, you want to invest in my new company?" This is late 2016. I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm going to do security for the Internet of Things. I just sold my business that is a cloud-based platform for security for enterprise assets. But what's needed is an entirely new kind of platform to support Internet of Things because of the cost structure, the scalability, the requirement to connect, support, and protect on any kind of network and any device, and et cetera, much more complex." So I said, "Well, yeah, it sounds interesting. Let me come meet with you." So we actually met for about 3 months. And at the end of the 3 months, I said, "Well, not only am I going to invest," and I was the first check into the company, "but I'm going to come on board as your COO. We're going to rock this thing." So
nice.
Now we have Babak, my partner. This is his third cloud security business. He actually was the innovator behind 2 Gartner security categories, where now there are 10 or 15 companies in each one. The one was, first one is CASB, Cloud Access Security Broker. And the second one is Firewall as a Service, which was focused on enterprise assets. So this is his third cloud security company as the primary architect of it. So we have a group in Jersey City, and then we have our development center in Szczecin, Poland, which is close to the German border, and we have a good group there, and so we're off and rolling.
I was near there once. Okay, well, that's a super story, and I'll tell you what. What do you think, Eric? Very impressive. I think
very, very impressive.
Cybersecurity solution sounds a little bit more, friendly,
doable.
Yeah,
and a little more doable, little less daunting. So
yeah. So we think you guys are going to do well.
Yeah, Thad, for sure. Listen, man, thanks for taking time to be on the show, and we really, really appreciate you telling our community about your product, and encourage our community to check you guys out. And with that, Thad, we wish you a great day. And listen, man, take your movie star out, and just Thad Bond, shaken not stirred. I think I go with that over Jared McRaney, but that's just me.
I think I'm taking the rest of the day off.
You should do it, brother. You should do it. All right, my man. Thanks again.
Hey, thank you.
What can I say, man? What were your thoughts?
I'm sold. I think that we've seen different products. We've seen some good products, and I was just going through, in the conversations we were having, the cybersecurity coverage that we have given and the cybersecurity products that we have featured and whatever. I don't think we've ever seen such a seamless, all-inclusive, scalable, modular, visible solution as Accredo. So I'm very impressed.
Yeah, me too, and really do appreciate it. Well, Kenny Smyers, listen, man, we got to get to it, man. It's the weekend. You got Smyers time, I got Stromquist time, and but the one thing I can tell you is, man, we appreciate all our viewers. So with that, a special thanks to our guests, Roger Rebenak and
Stephen Heckler.
And with that, a special thanks to our guests, the one and only Roger Rebenak and Stephen Heckler from Jackson Controls. Congratulations on your Cincinnati location, and to Thad Eichmann from Credo IO. We appreciate you coming in and introducing your product to our community. And with that, Kenny Smyers, remember, be bold, stay in control, and stay relevant.
Indeed, Eric.
Put your thumb in.